Okay, so this is how I get the hamburger. It's 1.5 pounds about, and you can get them at the store. Okay, so we'll add your ingredients. I have ground instead of rubbed sage, so I do just a little bit less than a half a tablespoon. Same with this is ground thyme instead of thyme leaves. So I do just a little bit less than the full tablespoon, the full half tablespoon. And then it's a quarter, or not tablespoon, I'm sorry, it's teaspoons. All these things are teaspoons, don't get confused. Follow the recipe, not my voice. Then we'll do a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. Let me get it out of here. Come on, you devil. There we go. Then it says a tablespoon and a half of salt, but that was too much. So I'm gonna do, I'm sorry, teaspoon. So I'm just gonna do 1 teaspoon. And then we're on to the wet ingredients. So this is Professor Pain in Diaz's butt pucker. And it calls for a half a teaspoon, I think. So we'll do that. And then it calls for a teaspoon of sugar, which I forgot about. So we'll do that. And then the final ingredient is 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire. Okay, then the last one is I have a quarter cup of breadcrumbs, but let's measure it because I'm not sure that's right. So this is a quarter cup. And these are Progresso Italian style breadcrumbs. I think it's going to be like 1/3 of a cup, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And we'll stir it up and see if it needs more.
What?
Okay, so you can just use a glove on your hand. Some people, they do. Either way, whether you use a glove or just your hand, this stuff is really gloopy and it will stick. So what you can do is just put some olive oil on your hand and then blend it. And I'll be back. Okay, so I still feel like this is too wet. So I'm gonna do another quarter cup of breadcrumbs. So this takes us up to what would be like a heaping half cup of breadcrumbs in the recipe. You don't want it to be super wet. Turkey's it's just more wet than, you know, ground beef or something like that. It's more sticky and all that. Okay, that's good. So the recipe needs to be adjusted. Instead of a quarter cup of breadcrumbs, it needs to be a rounded, heaping half cup. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so on to the next part. I'm gonna set up for that and I will be right back. Okay, so here's our ball of turkey. We're going to break it down into 6 balls. And you basically do that just by breaking it in half. And then you'll just kind of manipulate it, you know, do like a third, and then you'll have to add and remove to get the balls about the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So just for example, you can see I eyeballed it, and this one is really small. So I'm just going to take a little bit from some of the other bigger ones and bulk that one up. That one's too small now, so I'll add a little bit to it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I would call that good enough for rock and roll. Okay, so now I need to get out the stuff so we can press this into patties. Okay, so I just use this stuff. It's just wax paper. And we need to have 6 kind of patty size sheets to keep our patties separate when we stack them on a plate before we cook them. Because if you stack these without wax paper in between them, it just sticks into a big old ball. So I get 3 sheets like that, and then I just tear it in half on the edge of the counter. Now I have 6 sheets. Okay, and then we need something to press. So this is going to be the one that we use for pressing. That should be a little bit thicker. Okay, so you just use the wax paper to press it. Just going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to put just like a drop of olive oil, and then the patty, and the drop of olive oil. Again, these things are super sticky, and I'm going to press it pretty thin. About that thin, pretty thin. You can see it's pretty skinny. Okay. So it's just paper, patty. It doesn't take hardly any oil at all. Actually put too much on the first one. A little bit more. Get it thin, and then paper, patty, and I'm going to do the rest of these. Okay, so there's my 6 patties, and I'm going to take a minute to clean up my mess a little bit, and I'm going to preheat the oven to, I decided we're going to bake these, so I'm going to preheat it to 375. And that's what we'll use. So I'm going to preheat the oven now too. So preheat to 375. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and julienne some onions. And we're going to, I like to use a cleaver. You can use whatever. We're going to sharpen it. This is how I learned to sharpen. You shouldn't do it this way, but you should sharpen away. You're like moving it at like a slight angle across the sharpener. And there's also knife sharpening stones you can get that work. When I was chefing, we learned to do it this way, and my muscle memory is good enough that I'm going to do it this way. But all the new stuff says that you should sharpen away for the obvious reasons. Now, something that they don't say very often is that when you're sharpening, when you're done, you should clean the edge of your knife. And the reason is is, I don't know if you can see it, but that gray there is metal. It's metal shavings. So I'm going to take a minute to actually put this under soap and water. Okay, so we're going to do 2 onions. I just cut them in half. Lots of people have different ideas on how to do it, but I just cut both onions in half. And then I trim the ends. Cut off the part where the little furry root part is down here, then the part where the stalk attaches. And then you can just grab a little section of it and peel off the peel. You might lose a little bit of onion, but to me this is easy and worth the loss. So that's why I do it this way. And some you lose more than others, and some you don't lose hardly at all. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to finish peeling this. Then I'm going to clean up the onion peels. Then we'll slice this up and cook it. Okay, just a second. Okay, so we have our 4 onion halves. I cut with the ends that we cut off against the blade. And when you cut, you always have your fingers like this, always, with your fingers curled in. And that way, the blade can actually be touching your knuckles and your fingers don't get hurt. So it's like that. And then down, down, down. And use your thumb to pull your fingers back across the onion. So you just go slow. When I get about here, or you might get a little further, but some people might flip it. It's a little bit easier to grab. But as your skills grow, naturally, your speed will pick up. But it's important you don't push it so you don't lose a finger. So it's better to just go slow. And if you get some thicker ones, it's no big deal. But you can see for the most part, I'm cutting these pretty thin. Okay, I'm gonna heat up a pan and we'll transfer the onions to it. And we'll do sweet vinegar onions. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on medium heat, maybe medium, in between medium and medium high. And I'm just going to use a cast iron. but any pan will work. And I'm just gonna put in, I don't know, that much oil. I don't know how much that is. Not a lot. Enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And then we'll let it heat up until we can see that it's kind of hot. And we'll put the onions in. Okay, so this is gonna take just a minute. Okay, so this is just about hot enough. And while we were waiting, the oven let me know that it was preheated. So I'm gonna use this kind of setup to cook our burgers, but you can use anything you want. You can put it straight onto the cookie sheet. You could line the cookie sheet. But for me, I think putting it on a rack so that air can go above and under might work okay. So I'm gonna try this. And then with these patties, I don't know if I can get all 6 on here, but you just grab the patty with the paper underneath it. You put a thumb here to where a thumb is holding down the paper. And then you can just plop it on like that. So I'm just gonna grab it. And you might have to use 2 hands, but you put a thumb on the paper to where you're pinching the paper. And you just plop it on. Looks like I'm gonna get them on there. Okay. So that's what that looks like. And I'm gonna start with 10 minutes. So they're going in the oven. And I've got something, somebody else has something in here. That's a cool trick. All right, so I'm pulling that out. And yeah, we're gonna start with 10 minutes on the burgers. We'll have to test them and make sure they're cooked. And our oil is ready. So we got burgers in. The onions are starting to cook. And I'm going to pause this and I'll show you the process for cooking these. So they've been going about a minute or so. And you're just going to stir them every once in a while. And every once in a while is probably like every minute and a half. You're just going to give it, you're just going to move these onions around a little bit. You're going to take it, and the ones off the bottom are going to come to the top, and the ones that are on the top are going to go down to the bottom. And that's just going to take a little while. You can see we have some onion skins in here. Not a huge deal if they stay in there. Okay. So while these are cooking, we can make our sriracha mayo for our patties. All right, so I got sriracha, I have mayonnaise in this little container. This is probably like a 10-ounce container. Anyway, it's just a small little bowl. Here's my hand. You can see how big it is. It's just a small bowl. So we'll probably put like about a half a cup in here, maybe a little bit more. And then I like it pretty spicy, so we'll just kind of go for it. I'm going to coat the whole top of that pretty well with sriracha. Kind of like that. And then we'll just stir it up. Okay to have a little bit too much. because this stuff goes good on everything. Even these onions, they go so good with eggs in the morning or on any kind of sandwich. It's just, you'll have leftover, but it's great. These ingredients can be used all over the place. But this is about the color that you want. This is probably a medium spicy at that color. If you want it hotter, you can put more. If you want it to be less hot, you just make it a little bit more blonde. But that's a good color. Okay, so it's been a few minutes. Let's give this a stir. You can see we got some color on here, and that's good. You can also see that the onions are starting to get a little bit broken down, kind of translucent here. But these things really have to cook down until they're super, super soft. So I think I'm actually going to turn the heat down just a little teeny bit. And I'm going to add a little bit more oil because the pan's looking kind of dry. I'll just let them keep cooking down. So our onions have been cooking about 10 minutes now. I just tasted them, and some are super soft and some have a little bit of crunch to them. So we're just going to cook them just a little bit more. Our oven timer went off, so I want to see if our patties are done. So I'm just going to do the caveman method and break it in half and see if there's any pink in there. And they are completely done. So 10 minutes is perfect for them. If you want to, you can caramelize them with a torch. I sent your dad a torch. You could use that to add a little color to them. But I think they're going to be delicious the way they are. Okay. So this looks to me about where I want to. Let's see here. Still a little crunch, but they're getting there. So I'm going to go ahead and add the vinegar and sugar. So this is just white vinegar and normal table sugar. Let's do 3 tablespoons of white vinegar. And then we'll do, let's see, this is 1/3 of a cup, so let's see. We'll do 1/4 cup of sugar. And we'll turn the heat down to medium-low. And then we'll just let this cook slow for a while. And you're going to want all the vinegar and sugar to kind of evaporate and become super gloopy and gooey and sweet and beautiful. All right. All right, I added the rest of the 1/3 of a cup. So it's 3 tablespoons of white vinegar and 1/3 of a cup of sugar. And I turned the heat up just a little bit. You see how it's bubbling like that? Right in there. That's kind of what you're looking for. Slow, slow boil. Okay, so you can see we're getting there. It's still pretty liquidy, so we're going to let it reduce more. You want it to be almost like a jam. All right, so I'm just going to keep letting it cook. So at this point, all of that liquid has evaporated. There's no more liquid that's running. It's completely caramelized and soaked into the onions. And that's what we want. And this took about 20 minutes. And it's just not that type of thing that you can like walk away from. is you have to babysit it and keep on stirring. If it's getting too hot, you might have to adjust the heat. But that's what it looks like when it's done. You can see if I move the onions to the side, there is no water dripping down. There is nothing left to boil. It's just all soaked into those onions. There's a little bit over here, but that is just like jam at this point. Okay, all that's left to do is crisp up the buns and assemble the burger. Then every minute or so, you're going to check to see if these have any color yet. I've got this on medium heat. These are just brioche buns that we get from Safeway, but anything will do. Let's check them again. It's getting there. That one's good. 30 more seconds on this one. Once they start to get about there, and you can just use a flipper, you know, just check it. And that works just fine. But once they start getting color, you want to check them like every 30 seconds or so. All right, and that's what we're looking for. This is how you assemble it. That's it. You can see the burger is a lot bigger than the bun, but they're awesome. All right, bye.